People are afraid to retire. And I know how that sounds. On the surface, it makes no sense. Retirement is the thing you worked your whole life toward, the reward at the end of the finish line. So, what on earth is there to be afraid of? That's a fair question. But by the time I've shown you exactly what's underneath that fear, I think you'll not only understand it, you may find yourself nodding along because you recognize some of it in yourself. I'm Elle, and this is Designing Retirement. The people who are most afraid to retire are almost never the ones who say so. They don't write it in a comment. They don't bring it up over dinner. They don't even admit it to themselves because the feeling doesn't arrive as a clear thought that you can easily give voice to. It works quietly underneath everything where you can't quite get a look at it. They've spent 25, 30, maybe 35 years being the competent one, the attorney people call when the deal is falling apart, the physician whose arrival makes the whole room exhale, the teacher who shaped 1,000 lives. And competent people do not announce that they are terrified. They go quiet instead. They keep researching. They lie awake at 3 in the morning, punching numbers into their calculator on their phone, running the same scenarios over and over, certain that if they can just get the math to settle, the fear will settle with it. And it never does. I know exactly what that feels like because I've been there twice. So here's what I want you to know. The terror is real, but it is not about what you think it's about. You believe you're afraid of running out of money. You're not. You're afraid of 5 very specific things, and almost no one in retirement planning will name them for you, partly because most of them are not financial, and partly because you would never say them out loud. So let me say them for you. The first fear is the identity void, and this is the big one. You have spent the majority of your life being someone. You're the executive whose name on an email got the whole company moving. You're the founder who built something real out of nothing. You're the mentor who launched a dozen careers. That identity isn't just what you do, it became who you are. And retirement doesn't ask you to change jobs. It asks you to dissolve an identity you've spent decades building. That's not a career transition, that's an existential event. And the reason you can't sleep isn't because your spreadsheet doesn't balance. It's because you cannot picture who you are without that title in front of your name. The second fear is guilt. And I hear this most often from women, though it's certainly not limited to just women. If you've spent your career in a giving profession, say teaching, medicine, caregiving, social work, ministry, you have been trained by decades of practice to put everyone else's needs ahead of your own. Your children, your students, your patients, your clients. And now in retirement, you are expected to do something radical. You are expected to choose yourself, and that feels selfish, though almost no one uses that word. It comes out sideways. It comes out as a question that sounds practical, but isn't. Should I really spend that on myself, or should I put it toward the grandkids? Is it irresponsible to travel while I still can? Shouldn't I wait 1 more year? The guilt rarely announces itself. It disguises itself as prudence. And underneath every one of those careful, sensible-sounding questions is the same quiet worry that wanting this life after a lifetime of giving is somehow a failure of character. Let me be very clear about something. Choosing yourself after 30 years of choosing everyone else is not selfish. It is overdue. And I'll tell you how I learned that. When I retired the first time, I didn't give myself permission to believe it. I thought I had to find the next thing immediately, the next way to be useful, the next way to justify my existence. I thought I had to choose a new identity that I could respect. So I closed my law practice and opened an art gallery. And that is exactly why my first retirement failed. I never let myself stop. I never let myself be someone who wasn't producing something for someone else. The second time, I gave myself that permission, and it changed everything. The third fear is making these decisions in isolation. A lot of the people I hear from are navigating this solo. They're divorced or widowed, or their spouse is on a completely different timeline. And there's something uniquely terrifying about standing at the edge of the biggest financial and psychological transition of your life with no one to turn to and say, "Are we doing the right thing?" You're running the numbers alone. You're weighing the scenarios alone. Sell the house, keep the house, downsize, relocate. Every option has trade-offs, and there's no one sitting across the kitchen table helping you think it through. This is one of the 7 things I talk about that quietly vanish when you retire. The loss of intellectual community. The colleagues who used to help you think are gone. And now you're making the most consequential decision of your financial life without a sounding board. You don't need someone to make the decision for you, but you do need someone to help you structure the decision so you're not just lying in bed running the same 4 scenarios on a loop. The fourth fear is financial, but not the way you think. Most of the people I work with have done the math. They have a pension or a 401k or savings or rental income or some combination, and the math says they can retire. Their financial advisor says they can retire, but it doesn't feel like enough. And that's because no amount of money resolves an emotional problem. If your identity is still attached to being the person who earns, then no balance in any account will feel sufficient. You'll always find a reason that the numbers don't work, because the numbers were never really the problem. I'm not saying ignore the math. No, I'm an attorney. I believe in the math, but I'm telling you that if the spreadsheet says yes and your gut says no, the problem is not the spreadsheet. The fifth fear is the one nobody wants to say out loud. You know you might have 10 really good years, maybe 15 if you're fortunate. You know that your health, your energy, your mobility, your curiosity, these are not permanent resources. They are depleting assets. And the fear isn't just that retirement might not work out. The fear is that you'll wait too long to try, that you'll stay in the career another 3 years because it feels safe. And by the time you finally leave, the window for the life you actually wanted has narrowed or closed. This is the fear that keeps people awake more than any spreadsheet. The quiet terror that the best years are passing while you're still trying to decide. So those are the 5 fears: identity, guilt, isolation, financial anxiety, and the closing window. Now, here's what I want you to hear. Every single one of these is solvable, not by running the numbers one more time, not by reading another article about safe withdrawal rates, but by doing something most retirement planning completely ignores: designing what comes next before you leave what you have. That's what I teach on this channel. I use 3 pillars: prosperity, which is simply financial clarity; purpose, which is meaningful engagement; and play, which is how you actually design how you use your time. When all 3 things are in place, those 5 fears don't disappear, but they do shrink to a manageable size. Because you're no longer jumping into a void, you're stepping onto a structure that you carefully and strategically built. If you're in this place right now, lying awake, running those scenarios, knowing it's time but unable to make the move, I want you to do one thing. Take my free retirement readiness scorecard. The link is in the description below. It takes 5 minutes and it will tell you exactly which of the 3 pillars needs attention before you make your move. Because the answer to your fear isn't to have more courage. It's to have more clarity. And if you're ready to stop drifting and start designing, think about subscribing. I'll see you in the next one.